Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the second practice quiz for the A+ 1101 exam. This quiz represents 25 typical questions for the 1101 A+ exam. As you go through these questions, you may pause the video if you need more time to think through the question. Remember, don't try to remember each question to answer, but try to understand why the answer is the right answer. Each answer will also reference the video where the answer can be found. Question 1. What port does HTTP and HTTPS use? Choose two answers. Answer: 80 and 443. HTTP uses TCP port 80 and HTTPS uses TCP port 443. Question 2. You are troubleshooting a laptop with a blank LCD panel. When you place the screen under a bright light, you can see a faint image. Which of the following describes this issue? Answer: defective inverter. The inverter supplies electricity to the backlit light used in the LCD screens. When the inverter has failed, you can see a faint image on the screen. Question 3. Which network device can distribute IP addresses from a DHCP server? Answer: router. With home networks and SOHO networks, the router will include DHCP services. However, on corporate networks, the router will include the IP helper, which will forward DHCP requests to the DHCP server. Question 4. You have a laser printer that is leaving streaks on the printed pages. You have replaced the paper in the toner. What should you check next? Answer: photosensitive drum. The photosensitive drum is used to form the image before it is transferred onto the paper. A scratch on the drum can cause streaks on the print jobs. You are troubleshooting a classroom projector that shuts down after 10 to 15 minutes of use. What should you do next to troubleshoot the issue? Answer: clean the air filter. The projector seems to be overheating, which has caused it to shut down when it gets too hot. Of those options, the air filter is the only one that, if it is blocked, it will cause the system to heat faster. Question 6. Which of the following provide the highest level of isolation from the host operating system? Answer: hardware-assisted virtualization. Hardware-assisted virtualization, often implemented through technologies like Intel VTX or AMT-V, allows the hypervisor to directly manage hardware resources, enhancing the isolation between virtual machines or VMs in the host operating system. Question 7. You're troubleshooting a network issue and you need to check to see if the local network device is operating properly. Which of the following would you use that is the least disruptive? Answer: network tap. Taps are installed by disconnecting the link and placing the tap in the middle of the connection and used to intercept network traffic. Question 8. What type of connection type would you use to connect an external keyboard to an Android tablet? Choose 2 answers. Answer: USB-C and Bluetooth. For an Android, you can use the USB-C and the Bluetooth to connect an external keyboard. Question 9. You need to connect 2 nearby buildings together using a wireless point-to-point connection. Which of the following will you need to consider? Answer: allowable limits for transmit power. When you're using wireless technology, you need to look at what frequencies you can use and the power used for those frequencies. Question 10. A user has a keyboard, mouse, headset, external hard drive, and USB thumb drive connected to a USB-C hub that are no longer functioning. You have restarted the laptop and you have swapped the headset, monitor, and keyboard. What is most likely the problem? Answer: check to see if you can connect an external power source to the USB-C hub. While the USB hub does provide power, when adding multiple devices, hub or and/or devices may need to have a power adapter. Question 11. You have a server with multiple VMs. The VMs are all down. You discovered that you ran out of disk space. What type of device would you need to address? Answer: SAN. For virtual servers, a SAN provides storage that looks and feels like local storage. Question 12. What type of network device would you use to connect Category 6 cables from various offices to a switch? Answer: patch panel. Patch panels are a combination of punch-down blocks and RJ45 connectors that runs from the wall jack to the patch panel and used to connect the wall jacks to a switch. Question 13. What are the following used for touchscreen operations on a mobile device? Answer: digitizer. A digitizer is a device that receives, processes, and records digitally any analog information such as light, sound, touch, or pressure. Question 14. When you get a message that says the amount of system memory has changed, which component is failing? Answer: RAM. System memory is RAM. Question 15. You have a webcam that is not operating properly. No images or videos can be viewed. Which should you check first? Answer: reseat the webcam. When troubleshooting an external webcam, you should first make sure that the webcam is properly connected. While this was not an available option, you should also check the operating system privacy settings to make sure that the OS is not blocking the device. Question 16. You turn on a computer and the images are heavily distorted and discolored. What is most likely the problem? Answer: physical cabling issue. Physically cable issues can lead to problems like distorted colors, lines on the screen, intermittent blinking, and slow display turn on. Question 17. Which of the following cloud models provide programming platforms? Answer: PaaS. Cloud providers deliver a computing platform or platform as a service, or PaaS, typically included operating systems, programming language execution environments, database, and web server. Question 18. Which of the following would you use to separate data traffic and voice traffic? Answer: managed switch. Managed switch supports VLANs, which can be used to separate data traffic and voice traffic. Question 19. What type of cloud computing would you use in which the infrastructure is isolated from other organizations? Answer: private. Private cloud is a cloud infrastructure operated solely for a single organization, whether managed internally or by a third party, and hosted either internally or externally. Question 20. What type of cable would you use if you were running 100-meter network cable between buildings that will share a conduit with a large power cable? Answer: fiber. For long runs and one that is immune to electromagnetic signals that would come from the power conduit, you need to use fiber. Question 21. Today, what kind of cables are found on printers? Answer: USB. Today, printers use USB or Ethernet cable connections. Question 22. You have a tablet that restarts every 5 to 10 minutes. You have replaced the power adapter and charging cable. What is most likely the problem? Answer: faulty battery. The only possible solution would be power problems or overheating. Since you swap the external power and overheating is not an option, the only possible solution is faulty battery. Question 23. Which of the following are computer internal power connectors? Answer: Molex. Molex connectors are used for providing power to the motherboard, fans, floppy disk drives, CD/DVD drives, video card, and some older hard drive models. Question 24. Which type of interface would you use if you had to connect to the console of a Switch? Answer: serial interface. Serial interfaces were a standard to connect to the console switches and routers for years. Question 25. Which of the following would you use a punch-down tool? Answer: patch panel. Punch-down tool is most commonly used on a patch panel to terminate twisted pair cables such as the Ethernet cables. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be the 1101 practice exam number 3. Thank you.